The memory of fire, the mountain groaned as Kale and the human stepped into the pale morning light. The scholar blinked at the sky, bright, blue, peaceful. It seemed impossible that anything had changed. Yet he felt it. The air carried a strange weight, as if the world itself knew something had awakened. The human breathed deeply, staring at the horizon. "So much has changed," he murmured. His voice was steady but tired, as though carrying centuries of silence. Kyle studied him with both awe and fear. The legends spoke of gods, of monsters, of beings who commanded the stars. But standing beside him now, Kale saw something different. This human was not glowing with divine power. His skin was pale, his body weary. He was no god. He was alive. Still, even weakened, his presence felt heavier than entire armies. Kale gathered courage. "You said you fought the Voidborn before. What happened?" The human looked at him, eyes filled with memories too deep to name. "Do you want to know the truth, scholar? The truth is fire. It burns bright, but it also consumes. My kind, we were fire." He turned away, walking slowly toward the ruins of the valley. Kale followed. The human raised his hand, and the cube Kale carried floated into the air, spinning, with light. Images bloomed from it, filling the air around them with living memory. Kyle gasped. He saw fleets, endless fleets, rising from ancient Earth, soaring into the void like rivers of flame. He saw humans building cities in the skies of gas giants, drilling suns to draw power, bending entire moons into weapons. Their voices sang across the stars, united, unbroken, unstoppable. And then, the darkness came. From beyond the rim of the galaxy, shadows moved. Not ships, not machines, something worse. Kyle could not name their shapes. They were absence given form, claws of nothing, wings of silence. Wherever they touched, stars dimmed and life screamed. The humans fought them. He saw fire brighter than suns, weapons that shattered entire sectors. Humans stood on the front lines, their fleets roaring into the void. They fought with courage, with fury, with fire. And for a time, they won. The galaxy believed humans could not fall. But the shadows were endless. One world burned, then another, then another. Kyle watched as human fleets grew smaller, as their voices grew desperate. He saw worlds sacrificed, cities abandoned, armies swallowed whole. And then he saw it, the final stand. A human commander, eyes blazing, ordered a weapon unleashed. A weapon not meant to save but to seal. It consumed both human and voidborn alike, burning so bright it scarred the galaxy itself. The vision ended. The cube fell silent. Kyle staggered, breath sharp, heart trembling. His throat felt dry. You destroyed them?" The human's gaze was heavy. "We stopped them, but the cost was everything. Entire generations erased. Entire worlds gone. When the fire burned out, there were too few of us left. We knew the Voidborn would return one day, so we built prisons for ourselves. Sleep, until the galaxy called again." Kale whispered. "And now you are awake." "Yes," the human said. His voice was steady, but Kale saw sorrow in his eyes. "And if I am awake, it means the darkness is awake too." Far above, ships streaked across the sky. Alien vessels, scanning, searching. Kale's communicator buzzed with urgent calls from his people. Rumors had already spread. Something had happened in the ruins. Something dangerous. "They are coming," Kale said. The human nodded. "Of course. Fear and power travel faster than light." "What will you do?" Kyle asked. The human turned to him. "What I must. Fight. Teach. Remember." His voice grew harder. "Your people do not believe in humans, but the Voidborn will make them believe in death. If they are, to survive they must learn what we once knew." "And what is that?" Kyle asked. The human's eyes burned, the weight of 1,000 battles in his stare. "That fire can be more than destruction. Fire can be memory. Fire can be hope." The sound of engines roared closer. Alien patrol craft descended toward the mountain. Kale panicked. They think you are a threat. They will kill you. Theo. Human gave a faint, tired smile. Let them try. The patrol ship circled, weapons glowing. Loudspeakers shouted commands in the local tongue. Surrender the anomaly. Step away from the ruins. Kyle raised his hands, shouting back, Wait! This is not what you think, but the human did not move. His eyes narrowed. A bolt of plasma fired from above, streaking toward them. The human raised his hand. The plasma froze in midair, glowing, humming, suspended like a captured sun. With a flick of his wrist, he sent it soaring harmlessly into the sky where it exploded like a false dawn. The patrol ships faltered. Silence followed. Kale stared in disbelief. How did you? The human lowered his hand. His voice was calm, almost weary. Memory of fire, that is all. The patrol ships retreated, shaken. Word would spread faster now, across Kale's world, across the sector, across the galaxy. The human was no longer hidden. Kale's hands trembled as he turned to him. They will come with armies. They will not stop. The human looked at the horizon, where stars faintly burned in the daylight. Then the galaxy will remember what it means to fight. He began walking down the mountain path, each step echoing like a drumbeat of destiny. Kyle followed, heart pounding with both fear and wonder. The scholar had searched for answers in forgotten ruins. Now he walked beside a legend, alive and awake. The fire of humanity had returned, and the galaxy would soon feel its heat. The enemy beyond, the world of Kale's people, changed in a single day. News spread across the stars like fire through dry grass. Whispers became shouts. Rumors became fear, and fear became war. Every empire, every fleet, every hidden council now knew the truth. A human had awakened. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a curse. But all agreed on one thing. If the legends were real, then the balance of power in the galaxy was about to shatter. Kale watched the chaos from the halls of his city's archives. His people filled the streets, shouting in protest, demanding answers. Soldiers marched in tight lines, weapons drawn, while ships roared into the sky. The planet was restless, as though it felt the same heartbeat Kyle had heard in the ruins. The human, whose name was revealed at last as Aaron, stood quietly at the edge of the city, cloaked in simple fabric Kale had given him. He watched without fear, his gaze scanning the horizon like a hunter who had already seen this story before. They fear what they do not understand, Kale said, standing beside him. They should fear what they cannot see, Aaron replied. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of steel in it. Kale frowned. What do you mean? The human turned his eyes toward the stars. The Voidborn, they stir, I can feel it. Far across the galaxy, in a region no empire dared to claim, the first sign appeared. A star died, not in fire, not in explosion, but in silence. One moment it burned, the next it was gone, swallowed by darkness that rippled outward like ink in water. Fleets that patrolled the region vanished without trace. Only broken signals reached neighboring systems, static filled with screams. The councils dismissed it as an accident, a natural collapse. But Aaron shook his head when Kale told him. No star dies in silence, the human said. They are here. That night, Kale dreamed. He stood on a barren plain beneath a black sky. Shadows writhed in the air like smoke alive. From the darkness, shapes emerged. Long claws, endless teeth, bodies that twisted and stretched as if reality itself could not hold them. Their voices were not words but hunger. He saw them descend upon a world, stripping its oceans, tearing its cities, devouring its suns. Kale woke in terror, his body trembling. Across the room, Aaron sat awake watching him. You saw them, the human said quietly. Kale's throat was dry. The Voidborn. Aaron nodded. They reach for you through fear. That is how they weaken their prey. They crawl into your mind before they crawl into your world. The next day, the council summoned Kale. He entered the great chamber where elders and generals filled the seats. At the center stood Aaron, surrounded by guards. Weapons pointed at him, though the soldiers' hands shook as if they knew such weapons meant nothing. "Scholar Kale," one elder said, "you found this creature. You will answer, is it human?" Kyle looked at Aaron, then at the faces of his people. He took a breath. Yes, he is human. A wave of gasps filled the chamber. Some cried out in anger, others in fear. "Then he is a danger," shouted a general. "If humans are real, they are too powerful to trust. We cannot let him live among us." Another voice rose. "Or perhaps he is our salvation. If the legends are true, he can protect us." The chamber erupted into chaos. Through it all, Aaron stood silent. Finally, his voice cut through the noise. "You argue like children while the real enemy gathers at your gates." All fell silent. His eyes swept across them, sharp and cold. "You think me your threat. I am nothing compared to what waits beyond your stars. The Voidborn do not bargain. They do not rule. They consume. If you waste time fighting me, then you will be ashes before you even know they are here." A silence heavy as stone filled the chamber. Kyle spoke softly, but his words carried. "I saw them in my dreams. They are coming." The elders shivered, for dreams were not dismissed so easily. Dreams were warnings. That same hour, the skies above the planet cracked with alarms. A fleet returning from patrol arrived, shattered. Ships burned, hulls twisted as if chewed. Survivors screamed of black claws tearing through metal, of suns swallowed by shadow. The first confirmed attack. The Voidborn were no longer whispers. They were real. Panic seized the city. Civilians fled underground. The forgotten echo the galaxy was old. Stars were born, stars died, and civilizations rose like sparks in the dark. Many alien empires filled the endless sky, some proud, some cruel, and some only curious. They built cities across planets. They sent fleets into the void, and they thought themselves masters of all things. But in their archives, in their oldest stories, there was always a whisper. A name spoken like a shadow. Humans. No one agreed what humans were. Some said they were gods. Others said they were destroyers. Most believed they were nothing but myths. Tales told by wandering storytellers to scare children. No living creature had seen one for 1,000 years. And yet, the legend refused to die. On a quiet world at the edge of the Orion Arm, a young alien named Kale spent his days inside dusty halls of stone. He was a scholar, not a soldier, and he loved questions more than answers. His people thought him strange because while they studied trade and politics, he studied ruins. One day, deep under a broken mountain temple, Kale found something unusual. It was not stone, not metal, but something different, something alive. A small cube, dark and silent, yet it seemed to breathe with a hidden pulse. Strange symbols ran across its sides, glowing faintly when Kale touched it. He pulled back, his heart's racing. The cube hummed like it remembered him. That night, Kale carried the artifact to the Council of Elders. The old leaders looked down at him with tired eyes. "It is nothing," one said. "A broken machine," said another. "Child's play," laughed the last. But when Kale whispered the word he had found in forgotten texts, human, the chamber fell silent. "Do not speak," that name an elder warned. "It is only legend, a dream of primitive minds. Humans never existed." Yet even as they spoke, Kyle noticed the elders shift uneasily. Their eyes betrayed fear. He asked, "If they never existed, why are you afraid?" No one answered. That night, Kyle could not sleep. The cube sat on his desk, glowing softly as if waiting. He reached out once more. This time, when his fingers touched the surface, he heard something, a sound too deep for words, a sound like a heartbeat. Badum, badum, badum. It echoed not only in his ears, but in his mind. in his very bones. He gasped and fell back, but the cube pulsed with light brighter and brighter until it filled the room. And then he saw them. Not clearly, not fully, but as shadows in the light. Tall figures walking through fire and storm, eyes burning like suns, their hands shaping entire worlds. He saw fleets of ships larger than moons, weapons that split stars apart, and voices that roared like thunder across the heavens. Humans. The vision faded, but the echo remained. Kyle sat trembling, his skin cold, his heart's racing. He knew the truth now. The legends were not lies. The galaxy had not forgotten. It had only been asleep. The cube was a key, a memory, and perhaps a call. He whispered to himself. They were real. The next day, Kale returned to the ruins. He dug deeper, following old maps, chasing the pull of the cube. The tunnels beneath the mountain were older than his people, older than the sun above. Strange walls hummed with energy, as if they remembered footsteps long vanished. Symbols glowed faintly as he passed, responding to his presence. At last, Kyle reached a sealed chamber. The door was massive, black as night, carved with a single symbol, a hand 5-fingered, not like his own. He pressed the cube against the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the door shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The walls trembled, as if something vast had awakened. Slowly, with a thunderous groan, the door opened. Inside was darkness, and in that darkness, Kyle heard it again. Badum, badum, badum. The heartbeat of something waiting. Kyle stepped back, fear and wonder twisting inside him. His people would not believe him. They would laugh, or worse, they would fear. But he knew. He had touched a secret older than stars. The legends were true. Humans were real. And somewhere, deep in forgotten places of the galaxy, they were not finished. Kale did not see the eyes that opened in the dark chamber behind the door. Eyes that had been closed for longer than memory. Eyes that now glowed with the fire of a forgotten age. The echo was no longer forgotten. It was awake. The silent awakening. The chamber was silent. Ancient dust floated like mist, disturbed for the first time in endless ages. Kyle stood frozen at the threshold, staring into the darkness. The heartbeat he had heard before now throbbed, louder as if it came from the walls themselves. Badum, badum, badum. Every step forward felt heavy. His people had always laughed at the old legends, but here, standing in this hidden tomb, Kyle realized something terrifying. The legends might laugh back. Inside the chamber was vast and cold. The floor was smooth and black, polished like glass, though untouched for uncounted years. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the walls, stretching high into the shadows above. And in the very center, resting on a raised platform, was a crystal coffin. Within it lay a figure. It was nothing like Kale's people. Its skin was pale, not scaled. Its chest was broad. Its face was strange yet calm. Its eyes closed as if in deep sleep. And its hands, 5 fingers exactly like the symbol carved on the great door. Kale whispered the forbidden word. Human. At first he thought it was only a body, a preserved memory of the past. But then the coffin lit with a soft glow, responding to the cube in his hand. The light spread across the figure, wrapping it in silver lines. The heartbeat grew stronger. Badum, badum. The crystal began to crack. Kyle stumbled back, fear and awe surging through him. The figure inside twitched, a hand pressing against the surface. With a shattering sound, the coffin split apart. Fragments, floating upward like weightless shards. The figure drew its first breath in countless millennia. The human opened its eyes. They glowed faintly, not with fire, but with depth, like oceans that had seen too many storms. Slowly, the being rose from the coffin. Its movements were heavy, as though carrying memories older than the stars themselves. Kale wanted to run, yet his legs refused to move. The human looked at him. Who wakes me? The voice was deep, rough, as if unused for eons. It echoed in the chamber, in Kale's bones. Kale's mouth was dry. I am Kale, a scholar. I found your tomb. The human tilted its head, studying him. Tomb? It looked around, at the cracked crystal, at the glowing walls. Then it touched its chest, feeling the beat within. No, not tomb. Prison. Kale. Swallowed. Are you truly human? The being gave a faint smile, though it carried sadness. Yes, human. We were once many. Now, I do not know. It stepped down from the platform. Though weakened from its long sleep, its presence filled the chamber like a storm barely contained. Kale felt smaller than he had ever felt. This was not a god, nor a monster. This was something else entirely, something alive, but far beyond, the measure of any alien race. Outside the ruins, the galaxy stirred. Unseen machines hidden on distant moons flickered back to life. Satellites older than empires began sending signals into the void. On forgotten worlds, structures long thought dead began to glow with strange power. Fleets in nearby sectors suffered malfunctions, weapons freezing, engines shutting down. Something had changed. The awakening had begun. Kale tried to speak, but the human's gaze silenced him. You have awakened me, the human said. That means the cycle turns again. Cycle? Kale asked carefully. The human's eyes seemed to look beyond the walls, beyond the planet itself. Once before we fought the darkness. We burned bright, but even stars must fade. We fell into silence, waiting for the time when the shadow would return. Tell me, scholar, do you see signs of it? Kyle remembered whispers across his world. Ships lost in deep space, stars dimming without reason, shadows moving where no fleet should fly. He shivered. Yes, he said. Strange things are happening, things we do not understand. The human closed its eyes. Then the Voidborn stir again. Kale felt his heart's pound. He had never heard that word, but the weight of it filled him with dread. What are they? He asked. Hunters, the human replied. Born from nothing. They consume light, life, hope. We defeated them once long ago, but victory was not final. They always return. It looked at Kale with grave intensity. And so must we. Suddenly, the chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Alarms howled across Kale's communicator. Something was happening above. The human turned toward the sealed door. They know. Who? Kyle stammered. Your people. Others. The awakening sends a signal. They will come. Some in fear, some in hunger for power. But none are ready. It stepped closer, its eyes burning brighter. You, scholar, must choose. Will you walk with me into the storm? Or will you hide like all others? Kyle's legs trembled, but he raised his chin. I did not search for legends to run from them. I will walk with you. The human gave a slow nod. Then you are braver than most. Together they stepped out of the chamber. The ancient mountain shook as if the planet itself felt the return of its lost children. Kale glanced at the human walking beside him, a being out of time, a warrior of legend reborn. Above them, the skies trembled. Stars flickered as old machines awakened. Across the galaxy, rulers and generals would soon feel the change. The silence of ages was broken. The human had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. Soldiers scrambled to form defenses. The council shouted orders no one could follow. And Aaron walked calmly into the storm. Kyle chased after him. Where are you going? The human's eyes burned with memory. To remind the galaxy what it means to fight. They reached the edge of the starport where soldiers were loading weapons onto trembling ships. Above them, the broken fleet's wreckage still fell like burning meteors. Aaron stepped forward, lifting his hand toward the sky. Kyle watched as the human whispered words in a language long dead. The ground trembled. Across the ruined starships, ancient systems flickered, engines reignited, weapons recharged. For a moment, the wrecks stood tall again, shadows of their former glory. Gasps filled the air. Soldiers fell to their knees, believing they had witnessed a miracle. Aaron turned, his face grim. This is only memory, a taste of what once was. But it will not be enough. We must find the others. Others? Kyle asked. The human's eyes glowed faintly. I am not the only one who sleeps. Scattered across the galaxy, my kin wait in silence. To face the Voidborn, we must all awaken. Kale felt his heart's pound. The stories were true. Humans were not gone. They were waiting. But as he looked at the broken sky, he wondered, if the galaxy feared one human, what would it do when many awoke? The trials of legacy. The galaxy burned with rumors. The word human spread faster than light. Fleets armed themselves, councils panicked, and secret powers prepared their traps. Some sought humans as saviors. Others wanted them chained or destroyed. But Aaron, the awakened human, cared little for their noise. His gaze was fixed beyond the stars, to the hidden places where his people once walked. Kyle, ever at his side, carried the cube. It pulsed with light whenever they neared something ancient. Aaron had explained its truth. This is not only memory. It is a guide. It will lead us to the legacy we left behind. And so their journey began. They traveled through forgotten star lanes, across ruins swallowed by nebulae, through derelict stations where no living thing had walked in thousands of years. Every step brought them closer to fragments of human power, yet each fragment was guarded, not by soldiers, not by fleets, but by trials. The first trial was found on a frozen world where the wind howled like a beast. Kyle and Aaron descended into a valley of glass towers, structures half buried in ice. The cube pulsed brighter, guiding them toward a central spire. Inside, the halls were silent. Strange patterns glowed faintly along the walls. Then the air shifted. The lights sharpened into shapes. Voices filled the chamber, echoing from nowhere. Who enters the House of Fire? Kale froze, but Aaron answered calmly. A child of Earth. The walls blazed with images, humans of old, raising their hands, standing proud. The floor cracked, opening into a vast chamber below. Down they went, into the first trial. The chamber was filled with fire. Not real flame, but energy. Blades of light that slashed across the air, shifting in deadly patterns. Kale gasped. This is impossible. No one can cross. Aaron's eyes glowed faintly. These are not walls. They are memories, shaped to test courage. He stepped forward. The blades of energy slashed toward him. Kale cried out, but the human moved with fluid grace, his body remembering what his mind had forgotten. He slipped between strikes, rolled beneath beams, leapt where no normal being could. Halfway through, he turned. Come, scholar. Kale's hearts froze. Me? The trial is not only for me, Aaron said. It is for those who would walk with us. Humanity did not fight alone. Neither will we. Kale swallowed fear. His body shook, but he stepped forward. He copied Aaron's movements, trusting his guidance. He stumbled, scraped his arm, nearly fell into the light, but Aaron caught him, steadying him with a firm hand. Together, they reached the center. There, resting on a pedestal of black stone, was a sphere of fire, pulsing like a second heart. Aaron touched it. Energy surged through him. His eyes burned brighter. For a moment, Kale thought he saw fire wings flare behind him, shadows of what humans once were. The flames died down. The trial was past. The second trial was hidden in the ruins of a drowned city, deep beneath an endless ocean. They descended in a vessel older than Kale's entire civilization, guided by the cube's glow. The trial was not fire, but silence. The ruins pressed down on them with unbearable weight, the water thick and endless. At the city's heart lay a black door sealed with symbols. Aaron pressed his hand against it, but it did not open. Not strength, he murmured. Memory. The cube floated forward. Voices echoed, whispering in human tongue. Kyle could not understand, but Aaron closed his eyes, repeating the words. The door opened. Inside, visions filled the chamber. Kyle saw shadows of humans standing beside aliens long extinct, fighting side by side. He saw hope, trust, sacrifice. The trial was not danger, it was choice. The voices asked, "Will you walk beside them? Even knowing they will fear you, even knowing they will betray you?" Aaron looked at Kale. The scholar held his gaze, then nodded. Yes, because without trust, there is only shadow. The door opened wider. Within lay another fragment, a crystal blade, glowing with pale light. Aaron took it, but instead of wielding it, he handed it to Kale. "You carry this," Aaron said. Humanity's strength was never ours alone, it was shared. Kale's hands trembled as he accepted the relic. The third trial came without warning, not from ruins, not from machines, but from other aliens, assassins. They struck in the dark of a barren moon, their blades coated with poisons, their voices filled with hate. "The human must not rise," they hissed. Kale fell back in terror as the assassins closed in. But Aaron moved like a storm. His body, though weakened, carried memories of countless battles. He struck with fists, with stone, with fragments of ancient strength, but blood stained his arm. His blood. Kale cried out. The human was powerful but not invincible. Not a god, a man. The assassins fled, defeated but not destroyed. Aaron stood breathing heavily, blood running down his side. Kale rushed to him. "You're hurt." Aaron smiled faintly, though his face was pale. "Even fire bleeds, scholar. Remember that." When dawn rose over the barren moon, Kale sat beside the wounded human. He looked at the relics they had gathered, the sphere of fire, the crystal blade, and felt the weight of their journey. Each trial was not only about power, it was about choice, about trust, about remembering what humans once were. Kale whispered, "If every ruin holds trials like these, will we survive them all?" Aaron's eyes opened, weary but burning with determination. "We must, because the Voidborn will not wait." He looked to the stars where shadows stirred. The trials are not tests of strength. They are reminders. Humanity was never legend because of power alone. It was because we chose to fight, even when hope burned away. Rise of the Primordials, the galaxy trembled. Every fleet, every empire, every hidden council now watched the skies with unease. Stars flickered strangely. Old machines awoke from silence. Entire regions fell into chaos. And at the heart of it all was a single word spoken across millions of lips. Human. Kyle felt the weight of that word every day. He had carried relics, faced trials, and walked beside Aaron. But now, as their ship moved through the endless dark, he realized something deeper. This was no longer only legend. This was history being reborn, and the galaxy was afraid. The cube guided them again, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Aaron stood at the helm, his eyes fixed ahead. Kale sat close by, clutching the crystal blade he had been given in the trials. "Where are we going now?" Kyle asked. "To awaken the others," Aaron replied. "I am not the last. Humanity scattered across the stars, sleeping in prisons of crystal. Alone, I cannot stand against the Voidborn. But together..." His gaze burned. "Together, we rise." Their journey led them to a dead world, scarred by ancient fire. Cities lay in ruin, melted into black glass. No life stirred there. No sound, no wind. Yet beneath its surface lay something hidden. They descended into vast tunnels, guided by the cube's glow. The walls were smooth, humming faintly as though aware of their steps. At last, they reached a chamber greater than anything Kale had ever seen. Hundreds of crystal coffins stretched into the dark, lined like soldiers in endless ranks. Each held a figure. Each held a human. Kale gasped. So many. Aaron's voice was quiet, reverent. My brothers, my sisters, the primordials of legend, we were never gone, only waiting. The cube pulsed brighter, sending waves of light through the chamber. One by one, the crystals began to glow. Kyle felt the air thicken, charged with energy, and then the coffins cracked. Figures stirred inside, their eyes flickering open after millennia of silence. Men and women, warriors and thinkers, explorers and builders, humans of every kind, rising from their endless sleep. The sound of crystal shattering filled the chamber like a storm. Kale's heart pounded. He whispered to himself, "The legends are walking again." A tall woman with eyes like lightning stepped forward, her gaze fierce. She looked at Aaron. "You woke first." Aaron bowed his head. The cycle has turned. The voidborn stir. Murmurs spread through the awakened. Some showed sorrow, others anger, but all understood the weight of his words. Another human, old yet unbroken, spoke with a voice like thunder. "Then the war begins again." Kale trembled. Hundreds of humans now stood around him, their presence overwhelming. Their power hummed in the air, heavy as gravity, and yet he saw their eyes. They were not gods. They were people, scarred, weary, and burdened with memory. Still, he knew the galaxy would not see them this way. To Kale's people, to every empire, these humans would be monsters, saviors, or both. He whispered to Aaron, "They will fear you. They will fight you." "They will," Aaron agreed. "But they will not fight alone. They will have a choice. Stand with us or fall with the shadows." Far beyond, the first wave of the Voidborn struck. Entire sectors went dark as shadow fleets swept through. Stars dimmed, planets vanished, and ancient stations were torn apart by claws of nothing. Survivors spoke of shapes too vast to comprehend. Wings of blackness stretching across systems. Even the greatest alien fleets crumbled. Weapons failed. Shields collapsed. Fear spread faster than fire. Messages filled the galaxy. We are not enough. We cannot stand against them. And then another message followed. Not of fear, but of hope. A signal, old yet strong, spreading across every system. It carried a single phrase. The primordials rise. On Kale's world, people gathered in the Waiwanta streets to watch the skies. They saw ships unlike any in living memory, sleek, vast, glowing with power thought impossible. Human vessels, awakened with their masters, emerging from the silence of ages. The galaxy watched in awe. Some cheered. Some wept. Some sharpened their blades in fear. For better or worse, humanity had returned. In the chamber of the awakened, Aaron raised his voice. "Brothers, sisters, we are fire, but fire alone burns without purpose. We must be more. We must guide, not rule. We must fight, not consume. The Voidborn rise again, and this time we do not fight only for ourselves. We fight for the galaxy itself." The other humans answered with a roar that shook the walls. Kale stood among them, his small figure dwarfed by their power. Yet when Aaron looked at him, it was not with pity, it was with respect. For in the scholar's trembling hand still burned the crystal blade, glowing with borrowed light. "You see?" Aaron said softly, "The galaxy will not be saved by humans alone. It will be saved by those who choose to stand together." As fleets of darkness closed in, the first human armadas prepared to launch. Engines thundered, weapons charged, and voices long silent rose again in unity. Kale felt his heart's pound. He knew the war ahead would be worse than any dream. He knew fear would follow them. He knew betrayal might strike from those who feared the return of humans. But he also knew something else. The galaxy was no longer alone. The primordials had risen, and the enemy beyond would finally face fire once more. The galaxy burned. Worlds crumbled under the shadow of the Voidborn. Fleets vanished into silent black. Stars themselves flickered and died, swallowed by wings of nothingness. Across, the spiral arms panic spread like wildfire, but in that same darkness a new fire rose. Human ships, sleek, vast, glowing with power unseen for millennia, emerged from forgotten strongholds. Their engines roared like thunder. Their weapons lit the void with fire brighter than suns. And for the first time in an age, the galaxy remembered the truth of its oldest legend. The Primordials had returned. Kyle stood aboard one of the great vessels, staring in awe at the endless human fleet assembling beyond the viewports. His heart raced as alien fleets, hesitant at first, began joining them. Small, fragile ships drifted closer, answering the signal that had spread across every star. Stand with the humans, or fall with the shadows. Aaron stood at the center of the command chamber, his eyes burning with fierce determination. Around him, other awakened humans spoke in quiet tones, their voices heavy with memory. They were not gods. They were not saviors. But together, they carried the weight of an ancient fire that could not be extinguished. The first clash came swiftly. The Voidborn descended in swarms, claws of black tearing through space itself. Their bodies twisted, endless, impossible. Alien fleets broke before them, weapons useless against the hunger of shadow. Then the humans struck. Their ships moved like predators, silent, precise, deadly. Energy beams carved through the darkness, tearing Voidborn apart in bursts of white fire. Explosions lit the void like new stars being born. Kale gripped the crystal blade in his hands, watching in awe as Aaron led the charge. "They're winning," he whispered, but Aaron's voice was grim. "Not yet. This is only the beginning." The battle raged for days. The galaxy watched as worlds held their breath. Every message, every broadcast carried the same vision. Humans standing at the front, their ships burning brighter than the void. Yet even as they fought, the shadows adapted. The Voidborn grew stronger, their claws reaching deeper, their hunger unending. For every victory, 10 more threats emerged, and still the humans did not break. On the 4th day, the Voidborn unleashed their greatest weapon. From the dark between galaxies, something vast moved. Larger than any fleet, larger than any world, it stretched its wings across the stars. Entire systems dimmed under its presence. Kyle felt its hunger in his mind, a voice of emptiness whispering, "You cannot win. Fire burns out. Hope dies." He fell, to his knees, clutching his head. Around him, soldiers screamed as the presence clawed into their thoughts. But Aaron stood firm. His eyes blazed, his voice cutting through the despair. "No," he roared. "Hope does not die. Hope fights." The humans gathered their strength, the awakened relics they had recovered, the sphere of fire, the crystal blade, and countless others, burned with new power. They fused with their ships, their weapons, their very bodies. Kale rose, trembling, as Aaron placed a hand on his shoulder. "Scholar, this fight is not ours alone. You carry our memory now. You carry our fire." Before Kale could reply, Aaron leapt into battle. The final clash shook the galaxy. Human fleets struck at the vast shadow, their weapons tearing into its endless body. Alien fleets rallied beside them, courage renewed by the fire of legends. Kale joined the command, his voice guiding ships through chaos, the crystal blade glowing as if alive in his hands. He was no warrior, but in that moment he felt the fire too. For every world saved, for every Voidborn slain, the galaxy roared in unity. Together, they pushed the shadow back. Together, they reminded it that light still burned. At last, Aaron faced the vast creature at the heart of the swarm. His voice echoed across every channel, every fleet, every heart. "We are not gods. We are not rulers. We are simply what you fear most, those who refuse to fall." He raised his hands, fire erupting. From his very being, the relics glowed, the fleets aligned, and a storm of light consumed the darkness. The shadow screamed, its body unraveling, its hunger torn apart. One final burst of white fire spread across the stars, and then, silence. The Voidborn were gone. For, now, the galaxy erupted in celebration. Worlds lit their skies with fire and song. Fleets cheered, soldiers wept, and the name human was no longer legend. It was victory. Yet not all celebrated. In secret halls, rulers whispered of fear. If one, human, could awaken such fire, what would happen when all returned? Would they guide the galaxy or command it? On the silent deck of the flagship, Kyle stood beside Aaron. The human's eyes no longer burned with battle, but with something else, sorrow. "You saved us," Kyle said quietly. "You saved everyone." Aaron shook his head. "No, scholar. We only delayed the dark. The Voidborn will return. They always return. That is the cycle." Kale frowned. "Then what now?" The human looked out at the endless stars. His voice was calm, steady, filled with a mystery Kale could not unravel. "Now," Aaron said, "we guide. Not as rulers, not as gods, but as reminders. Fire fades, but fire also returns. And when the shadows rise again," he placed a hand on Kale's shoulder, "others will carry the flame." Kale looked at the humans gathered across the fleet, tired, scarred yet standing strong. He looked at the alien crews cheering in hope, and he felt something stir in his own chest. For the first time, he believed not only in the legends but in himself. Perhaps that was the true gift of humanity. Not power, not fire, but the courage to rise, even when all light seems lost. And, somewhere in the deep silence between galaxies, unseen eyes watched. The darkness was wounded, but it was not gone. And it whispered, waiting. "The cycle will turn again,